back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Natalie Megan and this is Weirdo Book Club. Today we are going to be discussing Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. This is another review that comes to you courtesy of commission by one of my patrons named Alisha. Alisha has done a really good job of commissioning me good books to read and some more questionable titles. I feel like this one falls somewhere in the middle, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we dive into a whole new world of extracurricular activities, let's dive into this world's options as far as extracurricular activities, and let's talk about Skillshare. Skillshare is one of the largest online learning communities made by creatives for creatives, with many different topics to choose from.
From things like marketing and AI innovation to music and productivity, you will have no problem finding new hobbies to explore or old ones to reignite. I am choosing to lean back into digital illustration and have been taking the Intro to Procreate class taught by illustrator Brooke Glaser.
I have been having a lot of fun with this. And I said this the last time, but it's true because it's what I'm doing. It really is helping me get back into the creative mindset of like not making content to feed the algorithm machine, but just to make something that makes me feel better, which has been really helpful for what we've been going through as a family over here. But I digress. The first 500 people to use my link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare so that you can start exploring some hobbies on your own. I really like Skillshare. I used it even before they sponsored me, so it comes from a genuine place. I love poking around their website and seeing some more stuff that I can find and explore, and I hope that you'll give it a shot too. It supports me and the channel that you obviously love because you're here and you're hanging out with me, and I really appreciate it. Thanks again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Now let's blast off. I am really funny. So Ice Planet Barbarians is a 180-page sci-fi romance originally published in 2015. There are 21 books in this series. God damn, is that right? With the final one being published in 2021. And I think it has a couple of little more half books and novellas tossed in there, but there are like 21 full bodies of work. It is available on Kindle Unlimited, all 21 of them actually, which is crazy. So as opposed to being broken up into chapters as we're used to seeing, this one is broken up into parts. There's only like 6, I think. I'm really bad with Roman numerals. And it is told in dual POVs, one of them belonging to our female main character, Georgie, and the other belongs to, well, you'll see. Here's the synopsis. You'd think being abducted by aliens would be the worst thing that could happen to me. And you'd be wrong. Because now, the aliens are having ship trouble and they've left their cargo of human women, including me, on an ice planet. And the only native inhabitant that I've met, he's big, horned, blue, and really has a thing for me. So, next we move on to the author's note and the trigger warnings that they provided. Hello there. I wrote this book in 2015 after a spate of reading a lot of darker romances. You might notice that this particular story starts out more violent in tone than a lot of the other books in the series. I think I got my footing after writing the first, so if this one feels a little too dark for you, please be assured the rest of the series is not. That being said, I feel I should point out some of the things that might be upsetting to readers to go in without warning. I've included a quick breakdown of what some readers might find troubling. This particular story features the following. Spoilers ahoy. Ahoy! Abduction, survival situations / food shortages. A side character is R'd by a alien bad guy. The hero's introduction features dubious consent and surprise pregnancy. My personal favorite. All right, are we ready? Are we ready to Okay, so part 1, we start off in Georgie's POV. Love that her name is Georgie, honestly, I like it. Up until yesterday, I, Georgie Carruthers, never believed in aliens. Oh sure, there were all kinds of possibilities out there in the universe, but if somebody would have told me that little green men were hanging around Earth in flying saucers just waiting to abduct people, I would have told them that they were crazy. But that was yesterday. Today's a very different sort of story. So Georgie, our female main character, is just a 22-year-old regular bitch until she gets snatched up out of her bed in the night, abducted by aliens, OMG. And honestly, alien abduction is sounding more and more like a rescue mission to me every single day. I squint in the low light, trying to make out my surroundings. It seems to be a large, dark room. Faint orange light is emitted from the small running tubes in the ceiling about 20 feet above. The walls themselves are black, and if I didn't know better, I'd say it looks like the cargo bay from some weird science fiction movie. On the wall opposite of me, I count 6 large 6-foot metal tubes lined against the wall like lockers. Orange and green lights run up and down the sides of the tubes in a variety of squiggles and dots. that might be some sort of alien writing. On the far wall, there's an oblong door. I can't get to the door, though, because I'm behind metal grid of some kind. So as she comes to, she notices what appears to be some sort of tracking device in her arm, and then flashes of the abduction come back to her, and she starts to scream, but another woman who's being held here scampers over and is like, don't scream, you don't want to find out what happens when you scream. I'll just go ahead and tell you, they get R'd, which is, it only happens once, but it's enough. This girl's name is Liz, and she not only tells her, shush, but a couple other details, right? All of the women on board are also 22, they live alone, no family nearby, no major health issues, and aren't pregnant. Well, except one of them was pregnant, but let's just say she's not now, which I feel like this should have, it's not on page, but like, the description is a bit more colorful than what I'm saying here. Whatever, we'll just leave it at that. Liz lets her know that all the girls have been there for about 2 weeks. Kira's been there the longest, and Kira is one that has this translator device stapled to her skull. No big deal. But I really just don't like the idea of anybody stapling anything to my noggin. So after the crash course in all things abduction, Liz encourages her to get some sleep because she's gonna need it. And it's honestly the only piece she'll get for a while. I figure out that there are 2 kinds of aliens. There are the fragile green ones that seem to be in charge, and the basketball-headed ones that are security. I call them basketball heads not because they've got oversized brains, but because the pebbly, hairless, orangish texture of their skin. It looks bizarre above the collar of the gray bodysuits they wear day in and day out. The basketball heads are pretty horrific, no matter the stupid name. To be fair, I don't know that that's surely their name. It's the name you gave them. But I'm getting hung up on literally nothing, so I'm tired. So some time passes and another newer girl wakes up and they're like, don't scream, but she does not listen. Her name is Dominique, and the basketball-headed aliens come in, snatch her out of the cargo hold and deal with her. What is this, a Clint Eastwood movie? Liz tells her not to look, but for some reason, Georgie's making herself look because, quote, someone needs to see. And to be honest, I don't know that that's true. Just walk with me here. Like, what do you need to see it for? Like, you can understand what's going on. There's no need to, voyeur at this, display and trauma that is happening to your left. Even if you're rescued, right, and you go back to Earth and you're talking to the government officials or whoever comes to talk to you, men in black, police, whatever, I don't think they need you to have, an eyewitness account of the R in gratuitous detail. I think just saying, this is what happened to girls when they were too loud will suffice. They're not going to believe you anyway. Some time passes from this, and Georgie starts to come up with a plan. I mean, they got to do something, right? They can't just sit there. And just as she volunteers to be the distraction for whatever this plan is, somebody's going to be loud, one of the guys is going to come in, she's going to throw the bucket of shit at them and take their gun. I don't know. It's not really hammered out because they're free falling all of a sudden. They don't scream though. They know better than to do that. And as they're being thrashed around, voices come over the intercom, and thankfully Kira's translator picks them up. Something about detaching cargo and offloading to a safe location. To which Georgie is like, gulp, we're the cargo. Yeah, yikes, not a good situation. But, is it any worse than the situation you're currently in? This is all bad right now. A basketball head appears, holding what appears to be some sort of an alien weapon, and Georgie is ready, holding that bucket of shit. You don't want to end up bringing a bucket of shit to an alien pew-pew fight, but desperate times. And there's no time to see who will win, right? Because all of a sudden the gravity is gone and they're kind of floating, right? And then what's floating past her but one of those alien pew-pews. So she grabs it, and when the gravity, I guess, comes back in, she just starts bashing the basketball head to death. May he rest. The girls are impressed, but Georgie feels like she might puke. And I guess, yeah, that makes sense. And they've got bigger problems, though. Kira comes running out of the cage. Ladies, we've got bigger problems. See? I told you. The message overhead is now saying, prepare for re-entry. I think that means we're crashing. They do indeed crash, yes. Most of them have a few scrapes, some broken bones. Georgie's wrist is kind of messed up, but 2 of the girls did not make it. Great news, though. They're on solid ground for now and breathing with no problem, so the air must not be toxic. And what's this? Snow? Not the worst place to be dumped, they guess, even though Kira heard them say that they will be back to pick up their cargo later. Yikes. So what do we do? Kira asks, sliding in next to the other girls huddling together for body warmth. She looks exhausted. Liz glances at me, waiting. Am I the leader now? Am I better than all you bitches? After a brief moment where she hums Eye of the Tiger to herself to pump herself up, It's decided that she is in fact the leader, and she is going to go scout out the area and look for food, water, maybe shelter. Okay, fine. If I'm going out in the snow, I need a couple of bars, the gun, and some water. We don't have canteens, Liz pointed out. Just eat the snow. Not the yellow snow! Oh, sure. Everyone's a comedian now that I'm the one going out to scout. Ladies, I need y'all to just focus in. I understand that you're 22, and so everything's silly goofy. You know, it's not even that big. It's not that deep. You know, it's not that deep. That's what y'all always say. Everybody, all the youngins, it's not that deep. You're on an alien planet made of ice. It's a little deep. Little deep. Can we focus, please? I can't do this. So anyway, she gets dressed in the dead aliens' attire for warmth. She grabs some of the gross bars that they were feeding them in the hull or whatever, and the weapon that she, bludgeoned the basketball head to death with, and then she just pokes out and sees nothing. Nothing but barren rock and white snow as far as the eye can see. It seems to be that deep. Can we stop with the kikis? Okay, let's be serious. But we can't be serious. As Alisha, the person who commissioned this review, thanks again, said in her comments that she left for me on the commission, this is the most ludicrous, ridiculous, smutty sci-fi whatever. And yeah, I concur. You ever see Star Wars, the original one? Don't tell me. Yep, it looks like we landed on Hoth. Except I see 2 itty-bitty suns and a huge-ass moon. Not Hoth, Liz yells. It was the 6th planet from its sun, and I don't recall it having a moon. Okay, nerd, I call back to her. We'll call this place not Hoth then. Seriously, I know that there's a gap. I understand that I am deep in my 30s, and these are like early 20-somethings that are going through a lot. I understand that. However, I also understand that recently when I looked at my demographics, I am most enjoyed by people of the Gen Z demographic. Is it the middle part? Is it the just glowing skin? Who knows? Who knows what it is? But I am one with the children.
How do you do, fellow kids?
Children, since you're here, I need you to just be serious, okay? We're not going to call it Not Hoth. We're not going to call it anything because we're getting the hell out of here. Now I need you to buckle down and get with the program. So Georgie is feeling a little overwhelmed. She just wants to kind of curl up and cry for days. And same, probably what I would do in this situation. I would be completely useless. But instead, she just gathers herself and her courage and heads out into the great white unknown. Not Hoth. She wanders for a bit, very little incident to comment on. She sees what looks to be some sort of weird stream with these like stalks of bamboo-like things sticking out of them. Safe? Unsure. But it's all she has right now. So she wanders over to the water, which seems to be like really warm, and she grabs onto one of these stalks, and then she leans down to take a sip, and then I realize there's a face on the other side of the water staring back at me. A face with a huge mouth, jagged teeth, and bulging fish eyes. And the stalk I'm holding appears to be attached to its nose. I scream and stumble backward just as the thing lunges forward and snaps at me. So some sort of alien fish thing was attached to that stalk that she, gripped, and it almost ate her face off. That was close. Shoo! I hope no other aliens show up and try to eat her. She starts walking near this little cluster of strange looking trees, and all of a sudden she's upside down. She stepped into some sort of snare or trap thing, and now she is totally screwed. I remember a scene in Star Wars where Luke found himself upside down in the snow creature's cave, and I start panicking again because I know how this sort of thing goes down. Luke's able to free himself before the creature eats him because he's a Jedi. Me? I'm just a Floridian in a stolen spacesuit with no weapon and a busted wrist. I know how this is gonna end. A yuck. She starts to try to thrash and kick her way out of the trap when she notices something large and white approaching her, and she just knows that she is dinner and passes out. Now we have our first POV switch over to Vectal. I don't recognize the thing squirming in my trap. Our big alien man is here, and he's confused. He pokes at her, and she doesn't move. He opens her eyes to see if she's, quote, lit from within. Finding no answers or response from her, he just cuts her down and takes her back to a cave. The eye underneath is white, dull. There is no khui inside her, and if there is, it is dead. She will need to be treated as if a child then. I make a fire quickly and wait for it to warm her. And because my curiosity has the best of me, I examine her. Ah! I tell myself it's simply to determine if she is wounded, but my mind sings with curiosity, my khui vibrating within my chest with a song that's growing greater with each possible moment. She's making me resonate. She is mine. Okay, great. Yeah, no. Okay, Harry Ziegler is here. I only speak the truth. So this alien guy and his alien culture, or whatever, have this thing called a khui. It's some sort of, I mean, at this point, I didn't know what the hell it was, but I know now. And it's like this thing that lives inside of like a symbiote or whatever the word is. I'm not really a science girly, but I'm doing my best. And it lives inside of their people and it keeps them warm from within. And when it sees their mate or whatever, it starts to vibrate, which sounds like a lot like purring to an outsider. Everyone in his little tribe has one, and when it starts freaking out the way that it is, it means that he has finally found his mate. What fun. As he continues to examine her legs fall apart, and he's just enveloped by her scent in such a way that it causes his khui to freak out even more. So he just dives right on in. What a way to welcome someone. POV switch, Georgie. Georgie picked a hell of a time to wake up, I'll tell you. She's like, I must be dreaming. Someone is eating my bush like a champ. Her words, not mine. And she's living, to be honest. She goes to like grab his head and keep it in place because she's enjoying this when she grabs horns. He looks up at me, and as he does, I gasp. He's not human. I mean, I knew that with the horns and all, but looking at his face, I can tell he's really not human. Horns rise from his hairline and curl around his scalp like a spiky, lethal helmet. He's blue, for one thing. Well, bluish gray with a black mane of hair that reminds me of a lion's mane. Same mane again. His brows are heavy, heavier than any human brow I've seen. His face is rugged like it's carved from stone. Going straight down his forehead to the tip of his nose is what is that word? I'm not gonna read it. A pattern of ridges of some kind. His bluish gray skin slightly darker there. So she's taken it all in. All of it. And she realizes that this is the mass that she saw approaching her just before she passed out in the trap. And then she gives us a gift in the form of pure literature. It wasn't a monster come to eat me. It was this monster who's come to eat me out. God damn it all to hell. Anyway, she's thrilled. She's loving it. And honestly, I mean, it isn't every day that a guy just volunteers to slurp her like a go-gurt. So yeah, let's go. Let's do this. What else could I be doing right now? Freezing out in the snow? This is much better. When one hand pushes on my thigh, urging me to spread my legs wider, I do so. I'll get up and protest in just a minute. Just a minute. Honestly, like I said, what else is there to be doing right now? You're injured, you've been abducted, you're on a planet that you don't know anything about, and it's made of ice, and there's a bunch of injured girls that are depending on you. That's a lot for anybody to bear, but definitely an unserious 22-year-old. Not to mention the horrific water fish alien thing that wanted to eat your face. So what if this guy wants to eat you out? Why not linger and lean in a bit? I get it, girl. You've been through a lot. He looks shocked, downright shocked at the sight of my clit. I forgot about this. He says something that sounds like Sasa, and it's definitely a question. Now's not the time for an anatomy lesson, buddy. I understand that this is unserious. Like, it has to be, right? And that was one of the things. So I've read this before. Let's just, hold on. I'm overwhelmed. So I've actually read this before. And it was back in 2022 when I first started making content. And so I remember back then, my review wasn't really scathing. I said that I enjoyed it, and it was very much exactly what it set out to do. And the author was a little humorous with it. And that made it a little bit more palatable, being the fact that it's alien smut on an ice planet. And I still think that's true. I still think that this book is very much exactly what it set out to be and do and whatever. But I'm irritated at the language this time around. But we're gonna table that for now, and we'll come back to it later because we have a lot to go through. So, anatomy lesson, right? That was wild to say, and it's funny because the next thing he does is just start rubbing it like a grass stain on a pair of slacks. And of course, this causes her to react, which causes him to just keep on at it, diving in, giving the girl what she came for. I don't know if this is what she came. I don't really know, but, whatever. This is quite a welcome wagon. She owes, and then she's like, crap, can't believe I just did that. How am I supposed to explain to the others? Hi, don't. You don't have to. Just don't. I know girlies like to talk and stuff, but like some things you just keep for yourself. This could be one of those things. If you're uncomfortable thinking about how to broach this topic, just don't. Anyway, the alien's not done. Oh no, he is ready to go all the way. And yeah, she's like totally okay with being a buffet, but she is not ready to get filleted. I think that there was a better joke there somewhere, but I've been through a lot recently and I just can't find it, so I'm gonna leave it alone. Anyway, she doesn't want to be impaled on this blue man, so she kicks at him and breaks her foot in the process because he's basically a big brick house. A big blue brick house. Bear in the big brick blue house. There's something there. She's a brick house. Part 2. Ha! We're making our way. It starts with Vectel, and he is yet again confused. It's almost like she doesn't want to mate with him, and he tries to explain himself. And here we have one of the first of many examples of something that I both love and hate, and I seriously can't decide which side I land on. So maybe you can help me. Maybe by the end of this, we'll have figured this out together. We do so much together. You are my mate now. That hurts. Do you see? So when they're attempting to communicate in the first little chunk of this thing and sharing what the other one is hearing when the other tries to speak whatever, I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing this. I just can't decide if I like it. And it's not like they start doing it at the front just to kind of let us know that he's kind of hearing gobbledygook from her. He's not able to get on their wavelength language-wise. But we keep doing it with dumbass shit that they say. And I really just don't think, like, on the one hand, it helps paint a picture of what it's like to have an alien yapping at you and you can't understand them, right? But on the other hand, cut this shit out. Anyway, we find out why Vectel looks so pissed at her for kicking him, and it isn't what you think. I am sickened at her reaction. This woman, this small creature who has half the stature of a Sakui, is my mate. How can she possibly think I would harm her? But she's cringing back, even now, as if expecting a blow to fall. Rage fills me, because this is not a normal response. Someone has hurt my mate in the past. I reach forward and turn her pale face towards me. She fights, but her eyes close again, and she begins to tremble. I gaze at her small, flat features. Her skin tone is regular, except for the mottled bruising along one side. There is evidence I suspected. Who did this to you? Even aliens have the who hurt you trope. I'm actually fine with it here. I do think it's a little strange that, bruises are what color? Blue. Purplish kind of thing. And he's blue. So I would think that a more logical thought process that he had was that she seems to be part Sakui with the blue and another, you know what I mean? Instead of just being like, this blue bruising doesn't belong here. Like, why would he know that? Everybody that he's ever seen is blue all over. Whatever. I'm fine with the whole who did this to you being here. I think I'm okay with it. It feels a little forced, but not much, because she did just crash out of the sky, so she's been through a lot. So it doesn't really bother me. Another thing that I don't mind, I actually might even like, I'm not sure how I feel about this, if you couldn't tell. He calls her my resonance, which makes sense because his khui thing inside of him resonates anytime she's near. That's like the whole thing, right? And I usually don't like nicknames, especially when they're just like given for no reason by a guy who's stupid. But for some reason, I like that he calls her my resonance. I feel like that's so freaking cute. Anyway, he calls her that, even though she doesn't seem to have a khui, and he's like really confused, but also like, nah, we can just fix that, and clearly the gods sent her to me so I can learn patience. Very well, little one, I say to her and brush my fingers over the strange smooth skin. You and I shall learn patience together. Didn't understand you. Do you see what I mean? How are we feeling about it right now? Because I feel like maybe I'm just on edge with a lot of the things that are going on in my life right now. But when I wrote this script, I wasn't on edge. So, but now we get to the first part of the book that made me laugh out loud. Her body is different than that of a Sakui. She's soft and hairless in most places, and I haven't seen a tail. And there's this strange nipple between her legs. Just thinking about it makes him start vibrating again, so he just sits and watches her to see what she'll do next. She tries to tell her name, but he's not getting it, so he hears Shorshi, which is cute. I'm not gonna take anything. I'll give a flower when it's needed. It's cute. Anyway, they go back and forth a little bit on the name thing, and Shorshi she is, and Shorshi is a mystery to me. Yeah, we got that. He's overwhelmed with a sense of grief that he has now found his mate, which is a good thing, but she doesn't have a khui, therefore she can't resonate with him. He's never resonated before. It's like a whole thing, and we find out later that there is like a surplus of men in his tribe and not so much on the female, women side, whatever you want to call it. But he finally resonates, and now here's this strange creature with no khui. What am I to do? What's an alien to do? But he vows to do whatever is necessary to keep her. She is his mate, after all. All right, we switch back to Georgie, and we start this POV with her feeling guilty that she hasn't gone back for the other girls yet, and being worried at how tense old alien dude seems. Did she do something wrong? Her stomach growls and breaks said tension for a second as she tries to explain to him that she's hungry. He then produces what appears to be like a bag of snacks, and honestly, I like him so far. He's down to clown in the downtown bonanza, and he also has snacks. He has meat of some sort and maybe a granola thing. I could kiss him right now, fangs and all. Thank you, I say, and break off a large piece. I don't care if I seem greedy or not. I'm starving. I cram the entire piece into my mouth and begin to chew. Right away, I can tell it's a mistake. The taste is, well, awful is the kindest word I can think of. It's like I've bitten into a package of jalapeno peppers mixed with a vile, mealy texture. The spices are so strong that my nose and eyes immediately water. Speaking of water, he has some and he gives it to her. Thankfully, it's not disgusting. It's actually cool and refreshing with a slight citrus undertone. Sounds delightful. I would like one, please. He examines her again, confused by her reaction to the food. She shivers and he takes off his cloak and drapes it around her and then goes to put another log on the fire. And that's when she realizes that he has a tail. Yikes. But then again, he has horns and ridges and his chest seems to purr when he's close to you. A tail seems par for the course at this stage. They share a tender moment because she's frustrated and she starts to cry and he wipes away her tears. Even though he can't understand her, he understands that she's upset. And right away, he's already better than most of the human men that we've encountered on this channel together. She tells us that his skin feels like a mix of suede and a word that I can't pronounce, which has me concerned friction-wise. But hey, I am just a passenger on this strange ride, so don't mind me. Some time passes and she wakes up against Vectel's chest. It's not the worst place to be. I mean, if I had my choice between the old cargo bay alone in the snow or snuggled next to this loving alien, I'm gonna go with option number 3. She is just a silly little bitch, isn't she? She's up, her stomach is growling again, so he offers her the same food, which she's like, nah, please. And they go back and forth on that for a bit. He is very chatty today, even though she can't understand him. He just keeps yapping anyway, and I honestly respect it. She starts to worry about the other girls. Well, she's been worried about it. I don't want to say start. She's been worried about it. She's just now worrying about it today. I hope they're okay. God, I hope they're okay. I need to go back to them today so they don't worry. I can tell them what I found, which really isn't much. I found face-eating fish that have stalks that look like bamboo. I found a warm stream full of the aforementioned face-eating fish. And I found an alien that likes to eat pussy as a greeting. I mean, I'd be interested in hearing about that last little bit. And thank God we have 21 more books to, wink, fill us in. Anyway, today's a traveling day. I guess Vectel wants to find more food for them and take her back to his village and mount her. I don't know. Either way, I'm down. He kneels and indicates that I should climb onto his back and put my arms around his neck, piggyback style. Well, this is humiliating. I object. I refuse. I don't agree.
There's nobody here.
You're way smaller. You're injured. He could probably traverse the terrain better than you. Just climb on or move and let someone else have a turn. I push my head against his neck and press my cold face into his warm hair. He smells good too. Great. Now I've got Stockholm Syndrome. I do appreciate, again, I've said it the first time I read it, and I'll say it again now. I do appreciate the humor that is sprinkled throughout this ridiculous little romance novel. But between that and the comments that she made with her stomach growl that she hoped he didn't mistake that sound for nookie time, I think I don't like it as much this time as the first time. Anyway, they're moving, and she's having a moderately okay time until she realizes that he's going the wrong way. Way away from the mountain where her friends are huddled together in a crashed craft of some sort. She starts to freak out. She gets him to stop and let her down, and then they start going back and forth about which way they're going. She finally agrees to whatever he wants to do if he takes her back up the mountain after. Vectel POV. She climbs back on begrudgingly, and he's pleased, even though she seems upset about something, and he has to go get her food because she's paler than usual, and she will need her strength to accept the khui. I have plans for my sweet mate, whether she likes it or not. She's going to take a khui. I'm not about to lose her now that I found her. Take a khui, whether she wants to or not, you say. That sounds intense. What does that entail? Is that innuendo? If so, for what? And what do you mean whether she likes it or not? They roam a bit more, and he finds a good spot to leave her so he can go hunt, forage, and find skins and stuff to warm her, and she kind of freaks out. I'm not leaving you, sweet resonance, I tell her, brushing a finger over her pale cheek. It's dangerous. I point out the scythe beak and then the snow cats. I even point out a lurking, quill-bundled rodent. That will be her meal. It takes a few moments for her to recognize the creatures hiding in plain view, blending amidst the snow. When she sees them, though, her eyes go wide, and she gives me another frightened look. Let me see if I can do it. You will stay here, I tell her. I'll hunt something for you to eat. I don't know. She gestures to one of the knives he has attached to him, and he gives it to her, and now she has protection while he's gone. This is a good plan. He takes out one of those quill rat things and butchers it for her, and she is, less than pleased. So he tries to explain it to her that it's delicious, and he saved her the best bits, and she's like, you for me it's sweet. That? He's persistent though, so she says, hopes like sushi, and takes a bite, but it's not like sushi and she's not happy with it, even though she still eats it. They start moving again, piggybacking as he draws a branch behind them to cover his tracks. He's a smart old boy. She dismounts and starts heading towards the stream, and I don't know why she does this because she knows there's monsters in there, and so does he. So he grabs her so that he can show her how to safely drink from this stream. He tosses a branch into it and waits. The water starts to bubble with activity. I pull out my traveler's pouch. No hunter leaves the tribal caves without one. And in it, I have several of the red snowberries that are so plentiful. I grip 2 of them, smash them between my fingers, and mix the juices with a handful of packed snow at my feet. Then lob the entire thing into the current of the stream. Then I look at Shorshi. Again, watch. She watches, her face intent. I see her surprise when the water again begins to flick, and the fang fish swim upstream, fleeing the waters and the berry taint they hate. Taint. They do not like the juice, I tell her. Not the juice! They will not return until the moons go down once more. Now we can drink. This is going really well. Not only do they drink, but they have a little bath break. Now that it's safe, why not? She is loving this because the water is actually really, really warm, and she is chattering up a storm. He can't understand her. He loves every inch of his resonance, though. Even if her strange hairless body has feet with 5 toesies. She's not hating the view of him either, and this makes him resonate again and wonder if this is Georgie's way of encouraging mating. Then he says, come to me then, my mate. I gesture her forward. I will fill all your needs. Georgie POV switch. I try not to stare and fail. I can handle fangs, the tail, the suede bluish gray skin. Heck, I'm cool with the horns that curl around his head like a badass crown of some kind. And I tell myself I should realize that a dude who's 7 feet tall will have an enormous It's size appropriate. I'm almost prepared for that, though the sight of it growing erect still makes my thighs clamp together in trepidation. I'm not prepared for ridges. He's got freaking ridges on his but of course he does. I feel like there's an alien bingo card somewhere that just got checked off. Horns, check. Tail, check. Crazy ass, check, check, check. But hey, she's more interested in bathing than playing hide the sausage right now, okay? So get your head out of the gutter, guys. This is just about getting clean before they get dirty. She starts to bathe, but not fast enough for Vectel, apparently, so he begins to crush berries and wash her pretty aggressively. She's loving it, though, because even though the water smells like rotten eggs, it's warm. I hear him inhale sharply, hear the vibrating purr start in his chest again. He murmurs something, voice thick, but all he does is wash my hair. No demanding touches, no insisting of anything. Just pleasure in touching me, in pleasing me. Actually, other than the fact that he startled the hell out of me with oral sex thing, he's been kind of sweet. Everything he's done has been designed to please me and give me pleasure. I digest that small bit of information. Maybe it's Stockholm Syndrome talking. Maybe it's the fact that with Vectel, I've felt safe. Safer than I have in the last 2 weeks. But I don't mind his touch. In fact, I kind of like it. Probably a lot more than I should. Honestly, I feel like if I was in this situation, I would be convinced that all of this was a dream and I would just go with it. Who cares? Ice Planet, blue alien, ridged sausage. Yeah, fine. Do whatever you want. They wash and they chat a bit more even though they can't understand. She starts to realize that maybe she can use her strange womanly wiles to get him to do things for her. And yeah, maybe that's a little manipulative, but hey, he's hot. He clearly is her best bet on making it out of here alive somehow. So she pushes up against him and asks him to take her up the mountain. He's like, nah. And she's like, Vectel, do you know how to kiss? and then kisses him. And like he devoured your bits on day one. You know, I kind of think he would know how to kiss, but sure, you know. So she kisses him and she's like, I can show you more things if you take me up the mountain. She knows that she's playing with fire, but people's lives are at stake, okay? Give a girl a break. Plus, he's like really hot. That shrewd gaze watches me. He leans in and I think he's going to kiss me, but he only nuzzles my nose. Georgie, mountain, he says in a low voice, and then I feel his hand slide down to my bare pussy where he drags his fingers over my folds. Mountain, I gasp. It's as much the startling, arousing touch as it is what he's asking. He wants me to have sex with him if he takes me up the mountain. I consider for a long moment, gazing up at him. Then I reach down and grip his Georgie Mountain. I agree. And I give him a quick stroke under the water. You take me up the mountain, this is what you get. I mean, if it works, it works. I've done more for less. He has some pep in his step now as he prepares to go up the mountain, and who could blame him? You know, he's resonating. He's ready to go. They dress and head out in that general direction, but he stops to uncover a cave for them so that they can stay the night in. And she's not happy about this. She's not having it. No, Vectel, no. We have to go up the mountain. He tells her very clearly no. But it's no use because she is out of there. And he tries to call out to her, but too late. I don't see the shadowed snow before I realize that when I step too close to the cliff wall, my foot doesn't connect with anything. She has fallen into a pit of some kind. And what's worse, she's not alone. Part 3, Georgie. Not good, not good, not good. A dozen pair of eyes stare at me out of these weird fish-like faces. They're kind of human, kind of not. They're bipedal and have 2 arms and legs that are tall, taller than me. Their eyes are enormous in their pointed bases. Their mouths small and round. They look almost cartoony, except for the matted, pale hair that covers almost every inch of their bodies. And they smell like a wet, dirty dog. Ugh. Ugh is right. That is the worst. So she also says that they remind her of the Wookiees, except that they're white. They are white and way less friendly and more vicious and angry than the Wookiees we know and love. Great. This sounds great. They start making their way over to her. I don't think they want to eat her, but I don't know. I'm not sure. And we'll never know because boom, Vectel shows up. Lets out a ferocious roar, Katy Perry style, takes out 2 of the critters in the process of like slinging her over his shoulder and trying to get out of there. And she's waiting for the I told you so. He's clearly pissed. And he carries her to a spot and sets her down and tells her to stay here. Stay here. Got it. I mumble, feeling guilty. I cross my arms over my chest and wait. He gives me an exasperated look and then he heads a few feet away. I notice we're right back at the stupid cliff wall with the buried cave. We're right back where we started, except in the meantime, I've had half my hair pulled out by a rabid yeti, acquired a few more bruises, and now he's pissed at me. He clears out the cave and gives her the all clear to come inside with him where it is bare, but it is warm, and she can't help it. She starts to cry quietly to herself. Vectel POV. He stands in confusion, but what else is new? Georgie. Who is she? How did she get here? Where did she come from? Where did she go?
Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
He builds her a fire and scoots her closer. Thank you, she says in a soft voice. I don't understand you, I growl at her. It's another obstacle in way of my mating. I want to tell Georgie that she is mine. She is my resonance, that she is safe with me, and I won't let harm come to her if she'll just trust me, that she's my light and my reason for being now. And that we shall create a hearth and family together. But I can tell her none of these things. She is worried that he's mad at her and starts to sob, and he comforts her. She cries harder and clings to him for warmth, which makes him hard. But she's sad, and this is not the time, so he just sits with her and holds her. Of course she is cold. She has no khui to warm her. Man, I'm kind of chilly, honestly, and I need to get me one of these things. Actually, no, I don't. You'll understand later. He looks at her wrist again and wraps it with something, and she points to a knife and asks for one, and he gives her one. At the gifting of this knife, her smile widens and she beams happily at me, as if I have given her the greatest of treasures. I feel better with it. This is so much fun for me. Actually, now that I'm having to read it out loud to you guys, I don't think I like it. I think I hate it a little bit. I can only imagine what it sounded like in the audiobook. Probably the exact same thing. I am, after all, very talented. He tries again to get her to eat, but she's like, you have to cook it, directing it towards the fire. And he's like, nah. And she's like, yeah. Eat, she says, and smiles up at me, her small teeth gleaming. She points at the beast and then at the fire. Cook, then eat, please. Ah, instructions. I point at the fire. Cook. Well, this fire. if you want to get tinkle. But yes, she nods. Cook. This is fun. Ugh. He does cook it, even though it goes against every fiber of his being. She eats it and grows happier and happier and sleepier with each bite. He leaves her with her new knife as he goes to gather more supplies for their journey. He returns and she asks, Mountain, and he's like, nah, tomorrow. They keep talking and trying to learn each other's names and languages and words. And they're just like going back and forth, like, what's this? Actually, she asks, what's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? What is the point of this? And he responds with words for fire, furs, hair. Her fingers move to my horns and she lightly skims one. What's this? Horns, I tell her. I scarcely dare to breathe as she traces along it, though my horns don't have as much feeling. Her breasts are close to my face and the scent of her arouses me, as does her fascinated touch. I long to grab her and pull her against me. Instead, I clench my fists and force myself to remain unmoving. She continues to like trail along his body and he is about to bust over it. She's in control, but he can't take much more of this. Georgie switched. He grabs her hand, tells her no, because she's in the danger zone. This no hurts her feelings and confuses her. Like, I thought we were playing a game. Do you not like me? I thought you liked me. Imagine being curved by an alien. I wonder if he's attractive for his people. He's attracted to me, now that I've gotten past my initial shock of the horns and blue skin and glowing eyes thing. His features are strong and well-defined, his nose straight and regal, even if it is ridged. His cheekbones are high and he's got a beautifully sculpted mouth.
She is very gorgeous to me.
Anyway, she doesn't get it. He's been so nice and attentive and affectionate until now. Like, now they're really getting somewhere and he won't even look at her. What is going on? He explains by guiding her hand to his sausage and he's like, see, and she's feeling rather powerful at this because this is what's going on. He's aroused, but he doesn't want to push her into anything that she doesn't want to do, which is weird because he already said that he's going to make her take the khui, whether she wants to or not. And so it kind of like, I'm a little confused on his character right now, because more often than not, he's just being attentive and helpful to her and not pushing anything on her. But then he said that. It's just odd. It was an odd choice. Man, for a big barbarian, he's being the perfect gentleman. I guess I don't need to ask about birth control, do I? I bet you do. I say to him and put a hand on his shoulder. God, I love touching him. It feels utterly decadent. I'm not on the pill. Not that it matters now. And I'm pretty sure that since we're different species, you can't get me pregnant. I need you to be really sure. I need you to be really sure, though. Allow me to make the first move. I tell him softly, reaching out to undo the top laces on his unusual vest. A vest. Really, you don't say. I better put a towel down. Whew, I didn't know there were vests on the board. Is his name Vectel or Vest? I'm stopping. Not only is he wearing the hottest piece of clothing ever known to man in all of history, she then teaches him how to French kiss. Oui, oui. I know it's supposed to be hot, okay? And I'm not saying that it isn't. But every time she explains the way he's exploring her, I picture two things. A kitten swatting at a fly, right? And the SNL skit with Kate McKinnon about the knocker stuff.
Kind of like that. No harm, no foul.
Anyway, they keep exploring from the waist up for now. He has the textured armor-like patches on his arm and chest. I'm soft all over. He's got suede-like skin that feels like heaven against mine. We both have belly buttons and nips. I run my hands over his. They feel hard textured like the armored plates. Maybe that's why he's so fascinated at the softness of mine. They're rounding second base when the breeches come off. I get to my feet and pry the tight pants off. I'm pretty wet. And I can feel my juices when I press my thighs together. I have no panties on under the uniform, so by the time I get it off, I'm totally naked. Pasty, bruised skin, and all. That is so much to give me okay, why aren't you wearing panties? No underwear, no panties, in the snow. Hey, discharge. Does no one have it? Anyway, he's kind of concerned over how beat up she is. Not the way he's about to do it, but she's bruised and she's injured and whatever. But she's not. She's only interested in one kind of beating. My hand crawls around his length, and with touch only, I feel the difference between him and human men. For one, his girth is pretty freaking impressive. He's scalding hot to the touch, and in addition to his huge size, he's got that hard knob, like knuckle-shaped ridge that protrudes over his.
Hey, wait till you see mine.
I had no idea what it's for and no questions to ask about it. He's also ridged here, though the skin feels less abrasive, more textured like his tongue. okay, I'm not a visual person. I'm one of those people that when I read, I just see the words on the page. Nothing's coming to life for me, which is very sad, and we don't need to talk about it. But I'm having a hard time figuring out what this is, so I need to ask the audience. Does his stick have a lid? Like, is he capping? Oh no. Anyway, he's gorgeous. She's floored at how glorious he is as he stands before her and his purring kicks into high gear. He looks down at me, blue eyes glowing brightly, and his chest rumbles with the continuous purr. His hand goes between my again, and I wonder if he's checking for a purr of my own.
Humans don't do that.
We get wet instead. And I take his hand and guide it to my mouth so he can see for himself. I know that they're like horned up for each other, some more than others, am I right? But I can't help but think in this moment that once they hammer out that whole communication issue that they're having, they literally have nothing in common. Like, aside from the obvious, you know, he's over here saying things like, my mate, my everything, my resonance, I will never let harm come to you. And she's like, is it nookie time? I'm slick with the sauce for you, big daddy. Like, god damn. There's no point in learning how to speak to each other if you have nothing to say. He munches on her again, and between the vibes and the textured tongue she's living, you know? But she needs the D, like, now. But instead of sticking it to her, he just sticks his tongue all the way in and starts rubbing. God bless. Anyway, she O's, and now it's time for the D. Letters everywhere. He enters her, and a new sensation appears. When he's seated entirely, I learned something new. That knob, the bony ridge, I had no idea what it was for. I still got no freaking clue. But I do notice that as he sinks into me, it pushes through my labia and brushes against my clit. I'm trying to analyze the unique sensation when he moves his hips and shallowly thrusts again. And every nerve ending lights up in response to the push of that knob against my clit. Well, that's great. She compares it also to the time that she had a rabbit-style toy. But this is way better, way more intense. She thinks she might die from sheer pleasure alone, saying, quote, coming apart with every stroke of his cock until I'm boneless and weak and mewing and still coming. I hate boneless. I hate that. He arrives as well, his fluid hotter than the average, and then he collapses on top of me like a big delicious blanket. You may recognize that line because I've read it before on a Bindery exclusive video that I did with Reads with Rachel when she visited me last year. It was our Try Not to Laugh challenge video, which she failed exuberantly. If you'd like to see that video, I would like to maybe take a moment here in the middle and tell you that you could join my Bindery and you'll get access to bonus videos like that. Vlog style, like reading vlogs, also some lifestyle vlogs, some bonus behind the scenes content, as well as early access to ad-free, uncensored rant reviews. And if you sign up on the top tier on my Bindery, you get to request commissions from me. That's one of the perks of that tier. So if you're curious about seeing the bonus content that me and Rachel filmed last year, the bonus content that we're probably going to film this year, and all this other stuff, if you want more from me and you'd like to, you know, support the small non-AI generated content creator that works so hard for you, I would really appreciate it, and my Bindery is a great way to do that. Anyway, the big delicious blanket starts making moves towards round 2. She ends her chunk of narration here with, it's a good thing you can't make me pregnant, buddy. So even if this wasn't spoiled, right, in the trigger warnings little author's note at the beginning about the surprise pregnancy, it's pretty heavy-handed, right? There's that whole rule about like when you show the weapon in Act 1, sooner or later you're going to use it or whatever. I don't know what it is. I'm not a theater kid, despite what many of you might think, but I do know of that rule, so whatever. Anyway, Vectal POV switch. He's pleased and empty from all that, and claiming her all night long. He cannot wait to return with her to the tribal caverns, and he's even more excited to see her swelling with their child. So much for not getting pregnant, buddy. This is so unexpected. I never would have guessed. Anyway, he's happy, and he tells us, from now until my spirit departs this plane, there shall be none for me but her. It's so funny to hear such prose from him. When it's Georgie's turn to speak, she says things like, fuck a duck. And so again, I say, I kind of hate them as a couple. It makes no sense. But I'm here for the interspace species banging. So for now, I'm going to leave it alone. He nuzzles her awake and says, mountain? To which she says, mountain? Dress yourself. I will check the traps. Then we will go. Don't know what she said, but let's go. Of all the voices that I've ever done, I think this is the dumbest I've ever felt. She looks excited, hurrying around the cave and searching for her discarded clothing. He manages to check the traps without her trying to follow him and falling into another monster cave on the side of a cliff. And then it's time. They're ready to go. He has some food and water for his sweet residence. But then I check all my traps. And it's not until I'm returning back from the last one that I notice an oddly shaped lump in the newly fallen snow. Curiosity gets the better of me and I approach it, then nudge it with a boot to uncover what lies underneath. It's a foot, small, bare, and five-toed, like my Georgie. It's frozen solid, and I stare down at it. I realize my Georgie's not here alone. That's why she's so frantic to get up the mountain. There are others like her. Or there were. Dun dun dun. Part 4? 4. Roman numerals are difficult for me. Actually, the reason that I don't know how to read Roman numerals is I remember this vividly. It was the only time in school that I remember falling asleep during a lesson. And it was one day in math class, 3rd period, Miss Powell. I fell asleep, nodded off while we were talking Roman numerals, and we never talked about it again. Thankfully, it was like bundled into a bunch of other lessons that we had on the test at the end of the week. So I got like okay grade, but I've never learned Roman numerals ever since then. And that's why you shouldn't fall asleep in class, guys. Part 4, Georgie. She passes the time waiting for him to return by like gathering up all the blankets that are in the cave so she could take up to the rest of the girls, because she really is feeling guilty, you know? But then Vector returns. His eyes are frantic and he grabs her and holds on to her for a minute, and he's scared, and that makes her really scared. Same. He helps her get all bundled up and they head outside into the snow so that he can show her the horrible thing that he found. It's Dominique. Naked and frozen, solid, and no longer with us. Georgie is devastated and feeling guilty yet again. She's been out here banging the daylights out of an alien, and everyone else is starving and dying. So she gets on Vector's back, and they finally head up the mountain. She's vexed, though, because, like, why would they send her out here with no clothing? I don't know, G. They probably didn't. After 2 hours of trudging uphill, she spots the black hull of the ship in the distance, just barely poking out of all this newly fallen snow. They head for it. She dismounts, tugs at the tarp, covering the opening, and a snowball flies and hits her in the face. She's like, fuck off with the snowballs. It's Georgie. They're like, oh my god, you're alive. What's with the lion? She's like, it's not a lion, okay? He's a native. He's a friend. She looks down into the hull and sees 5 very gaunt, hungry, scared, but alive girls staring back at her. Liz, Kira, Megan, Tiffany, and Joseph. Vector is wary, but he helps her climb down into the hull, and she starts just handing over the blankets and catching them up on stuff when Vector comes, boom, down there with them. She introduces everyone and watches to see if he greets everyone else with oral sex, or if that was just a special way to greet her. It turns out just a special way to greet her, and she's feeling pretty proud of herself. The girls notice that he has something dead attached to his belt, and they're like, oh my god, can we eat it? And Georgie reaches for it, and he says something that we can now understand because of Kira and the translator thingy. He just asked if you want to mate here, Kira said, voice full of disbelief. LOL, busted. Liz is like, oh, that's why you took so long getting back here. Alien nookie. Why are they all so familiar? Like, I've met people before and I've had an instant connection with them, but they were captives for 2 weeks and they had to be quiet most of the time. How are they so overly familiar with their little jokes? They say nookie in this book twice, but it's too many.
Like a charm.
The girls are like, I don't care if you banged a whole stadium of aliens if it means we get food. Heck, I'll blow him myself if he can get a fire going. This makes Georgie a little jealous, just a little bit, just a smidge. And she's like, I cannot be falling for this alien guy. No way. He says that he'll have to go back downhill a little ways and get more firewood. But he does realize that Kira can kind of understand him, so she tells him to watch over his mate while he does that. Georgie's like, oh my god, mate? He thinks we're mated? But there's no time to ask because he's already up and out of the hull. He's a rush of thoughts as he goes off on his own, and there is someone outside that is revving an engine, and why wouldn't you do that when I'm in the middle of a video? There are over 20 males in his tribe without mates, and he just found 5 more. This could mean great things for his people, but one step at a time. None of them are strong enough to make it back to the village, let alone take the khui, right? So he must find firewood, food, and water. He takes a long time getting back, but he does eventually get back to the humans with everything, and he plops down. He snuggles her, desperate to be near her, and the others are making kissy noises, to which she says, fuck you, I like him. Or sorry, fuck you, I like him. We're having fun. I don't know if you just showed up, all you need to know is we're having fun. Is someone landing a plane on my street? Whew, okay. He makes a fire. They all huddle together for warmth as he begrudgingly cooks all the flavor out of the food, just like the humans like. One of the girls has a cough that sounds like sickness, and Georgie asks if he has medicine, but he has none. Says it's khui sickness. What could that mean? Georgie POV. She asks Kira if she can translate the word khui, but she can't. It's not an English word. The girls have been giving her shit the entire time that he was gone, but she deserves it, so she just takes it in stride and works on trying to get them fed and stronger so that they can fix everything that ails them. He cooks the food and tries to give it to Georgie first, but Georgie's like, no, they need to eat first. No, I'm not going to eat until they eat. You know, very noble, very noble. Once everyone is full, he pulls her in close and they chat about everything. The kidnapping, the circumstances. Liz is like, can't leave you alone for 2 seconds without you getting... Which is weird to me again. Like, it's all way too familiar in the short time that they've spent together. It is just very strange. And I guess we may be trauma bonding. We may be trying to laugh our way through the pain and the suffering that we're dealing with. And that's fine, I guess. But it's just a little weird for me. As is the fact that they've opened an airstrip on my block. Liz and Georgie talk some more. And Liz asks her how this guy is going to react when he finds out that they don't really want to stay on Not Hoth. But it's a non-issue because they haven't talked about that yet. They haven't really talked about anything yet because they can't understand each other. She tells her that they found Dominique in the snow. Liz tells her how those Wookiee people showed up. They couldn't figure out how to get into the hull, but they kept just like taunting them from outside. So the next day, Liz, Tiffany, and Dominique went outside to make snowballs in case they came back. But when Tiffany and Liz turned their back, Dominique just ran off into the snow. And here's where it gets a little weird for me. I can't even be sad, Liz says with a sign. I feel like that was supposed to be sigh. She hugs her good leg closer to her body. She didn't want to be alive. Not after what they did to her. Wait, serious cap. Am I serious capping an alien romance sci-fi thing? Sure am. I don't like this. I don't like it anytime it pops up. And it does pop up of an unusual amount of times in books like this where someone gets sexually assaulted or raped, and then there's this narrative that tags along after them that death is kind of the natural next step. As unserious as this book is, why did this have to be here and force me to be serious? They just kind of toss it out there and shrug it off, and it just feels really insensitive to victims of sexual assault and rape in general. So she got abducted, brutally violated by the aliens that were holding her captive, and she didn't want to live anymore, and they're acting like that is just a natural progression. 1, 2, 3, check. And you can't even be sad about it because she didn't want to be alive. You could have just left this out. Like, that's what I just don't understand. Everybody is in a pretty bleak situation right now, and it is possible to lose grip on sanity just because of that. There's also a thing called paradoxical undressing that happens in the late stages of hypothermia. And the way hypothermia works, if I understand it, which I may not, so you can just let me know. When you start to feel cold, your blood vessels kind of close up a little bit tighter to conserve warmth, and they're channeling warmth to your core. But when you get to that last stage of hypothermia, the blood vessels open back up, and all of a sudden the blood is going to your extremities, and you start to feel warm again. That's when paradoxical undressing happens. You take your clothes off because you feel this sensation of warmth coming from within you. So you just get naked in the snow. They are literally on an ice planet. That could have been what happened here with Dominique. She could have just been really, really cold, late stage hypothermia, takes all her clothes off, runs deluded into the snow. And that would have made sense for what happens in cases of hypothermia. But instead of doing all of that, they blamed it on her being attacked, and then naturally, as one does, she's just suicidal as a next step. And it felt gross to me. And like I said, we've seen this before. Looking at you, haunting Adeline. Looking at you, pawning the puppet. They both had instances of there being severe sexual assault or rape, and death is clearly the only way for these victims to escape the pain of that. And they just throw it around so casually, and I just hate it. So I wanted to take a second to talk about it, and I also wanted to just say that since I shared the other day about my Gen Z populace here, and someone told me that I have big sister energy, and that's what makes the kiddos love me so much. As your internet big sister, I just wanted to take a second and say that I'm glad you're here. Here with me chatting about an alien sci-fi romance, sure, but also just here in general. If you've been a victim of something like this, death is not the only option, the only means of healing, the only means of escaping the pain that you're living with. It's not the next step after sexual sexual trauma. I hate when it comes up in books, especially carelessly, and that's all. That's all I wanted to say. Serious cap off. Anyway, Liz is like, we've got to get out of here, Georgie. We can't be here when the others come back to get us. And Georgie knows that. She's determined to figure it out. Vectel, POV, he's annoyed that Georgie gave all her blankets away. So he complains loud enough where Kira, the one with the translator, can understand him. And then she willingly hands over her blanket to Georgie and goes to snuggle up with some other girls. Georgie tries to tell her, like, no, but she's like, please don't piss him off. So I can only imagine what he said. You know, we're getting like some hints of some toxic stuff. Not blatant with him, but he's an alien. So it's like, this is such an unserious book. It's just, I'm trying, okay? He then proceeds to carry her off to a private area in the cave with hoots and hollering coming from the peanut gallery, following them down the hallway. Get you some, girlfriend. Woo! Hi. I thought y'all were at death's door. Would you quiet down, pipe down? He starts to press up against her, which she likes, but he wants more. So he does the human custom of mouth joining to steer her in the mating direction. I guess she did teach him something, how to kiss. After all, that's fun. They keep going until she hears the girls whispering about them down the hall, or whatever you want to call it. Them getting it on, something about monster dick. Can anyone be serious? Like, just... This is, okay, whatever. So she stops him. She's uncomfortable, and he's so weirded out by this. He is not from a shy people. That's one group of people. No. Anyway, he's not shy, but Georgie is. She does seem sad that they can't mate right now, and that is the only thing that keeps him from chucking the rest of them out into their asses in the snow. What a sweet guy. See, this is what I mean. Like, every now and then he does something that's a little alarming. Like, I know he's blue, but some of these things are red. He's starting to look a little purple to me. Color theory. Yeah, please don't get me started on color theory. The next morning arrives and they are making plans. They don't want to stay here, but they can't travel in their current state. And he can't explain it to her, so he explains it to Kira so that she can explain it to everybody else. I point at my shoes. You have no foot coverings, no clothing. With 6 of you, I cannot possibly hunt enough game and keep you moving. My home caverns are many hours walks away. Hours. They measure time in hours. Weird. Didn't notice this whatever. With Georgie, it'll all take me 2 days to go down there. I will get my people. We will come and bring you warm clothes and travel rations. Then we will take you home with us. You will be safe there. And they're all stunned because, you have people? Yeah, no shit. What do you think? He's just out here by himself? Do I have a tribe? Yes. There are 4/8 of us, plus 2 kits. I am the chief. The one translates, and Georgie nods again. Should've known. He's bossy. Okay. Georgie thinks to herself too, there's like actually not 6 of us. There's 12 because the people in the pods that she described earlier, I don't even know if I said this, but those pods that she described at the front of the book that are like, you know, whatever. There are women in those pods too. And they've been asleep the entire time. Still are. Have no clue that they've been abducted. No clue that they've been crash landed on another planet. None of that. She does try to tell him this, but he can't understand her. But she's like, cool, it'll be a fun surprise for later. Weird to put it like that, but okay, yeah. So his plan is to take Georgie, return to the tribe, get a khui for her, and then gather hunters in his tribe to return for the others. They leave the food, the blades, and a couple of blankets with the girls, and then they head down the mountain once again. He heads with urgency and Georgie on his back in a straight line as the crow flies down the mountain, stopping only when water is needed. They have to make haste. Then they reach the Elder Cave, where they will spend the night. This is their one and only stop for the night, and then they will be at his village tomorrow. And he starts to run through the list of people and hunters that he wants to bring back with him. All of them are unmated hunters, except for Kashrim. It might be smarter to take the mated ones so there are no fights over the small females, but I do not want to build resentment among my tribe. I know the men will be eager to see the female humans, especially after I return with my lovely Georgie. They go inside, and he starts prepping the cave, and he is just so dang proud and enamored when he sees Georgie is stacking firewood so she can learn how to help out. The fire can wait. He has some smoldering of his own to do right now. His khui is freaking the out, which she loves, and she is just as raring to go as he is, so they start to mix it up a little bit. I am trying to stay monetized here, so please bear with me with the silly, goofy language. They join mouths as he imagines her swollen with their half-human, half-sakui offspring human child mix. Yikes, 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 yikes. Too much, too fast, too much, too fast. He touches and teases and says, "You are my heart," to which she says, Fuck me, Blue Daddy. I'm hungry for your meat. Okay, she didn't say that, but would it have been out of character if she had? He enters her. They love it. He tells us, my khui responds, thrumming inside me. Soon I will feel her khui answer me too. It must be soon or else my Georgie will not survive. Huh. I fear what this means. What do you mean? What do you mean she won't survive? I fear that if he has already planted his metaphorical flag in the baby machine, she may be... Is this a way of force? Does she have to? What are we saying? She has to accept this khui under duress? You know what? Let's cross our fingers. We'll try to remain hopeful, okay? Let's get back on the awesome smut train. Toot toot. When the last of my seed is wrung from... You know what? I'm gonna yada yada. They have their fun, and then afterward they're laying there in the afterglow, and then there is a literal glow. A flicker of light catches Georgie's attention, and she looks at the walls of this cave for the first time. Vectel tells her that it's an elder cave full of magic, but when Georgie turns back to face him, she has one question. Vectel, is it a spaceship? Oh, this would make sense. Yeah, because he said the Elder Cave has walls similar to the cave that the other humans are in right now. So that, yeah, okay, yeah. Part 5, Georgie. She's stunned. She didn't notice that this was a spaceship before. Probably all the alien deck had you distracted, you think?
Wait till you see my dick.
So she starts to try to chip away at the ice that's covering the walls of this spaceship when she sees a control panel of some sorts, and then she also sees Vectel. He stops her and then directs her over to the fire, because fire will melt the wall faster than her, little whatever. And as they wait for the ice to melt a little, she goes over what this could mean in her head. It doesn't look like the same spaceship, but what if it belongs to the same people and they've been here for years, and this is like a ticket home or a ticket to be a meal for someone in the near future? She has to get some answers. So they grab a stick of fire and they start to melt it even more. And Vectel is just as unnerved by this whole thing as the melting starts. What is this? And she's like, is this a way for me to go home? I steal a look at Vectel. His brutishly handsome features are pulled down into a frown, and as if he's not entirely sure what to make of this. He's been wonderful to me. And the sex? Okay, the sex is mind-blowing, but this place sucks. It's cold and it's horrible, and I don't know if I want to stay here when there's a ride home. And you know what, girly pop? That is more than fair. So more and more the panel starts to be revealed, and she sees a strange button that she might push. She shouldn't. Should she? Should she? Is it a bad idea? Absolutely. But do I want to chance it? I look at Vectel again. Actually, I don't want to chance it, I realize. I'd be just as happy turning around and going out of here with him. I know I'm safe with him. I might even be able to be happy with him, but the other women don't have the same options I do. They don't have a big, wonderful alien treating them like gold and catering to their every need. She takes a breath and pushes the button. Nothing happens. At first. A soft whirring noise starts as the ship is booting up. An AI voice comes over and bellows. When she speaks English back to it, I don't understand you. It corrects itself to speak English. Riveting. Vectel is just as astonished as she is, and a picture of Earth appears on, I guess, a screen. And she's like, that's my planet! So the computer takes a second to boot up completely. And once it is finally up and running completely, it says, environmental controls online. Ideal habitat temperature for humans is 22 degrees Celsius or 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Ideal habitat temperature for modified sock is 3 degrees Celsius or 37 degrees Fahrenheit. Which shall I program? She's like, modified sock. And then the computer tells her that Vectel that she's with is not actually from this planet either. Well, isn't that a head scratcher? What do you mean? He comes from a place called Kez, which means home in his language. And it is 3.2 far away something measurements from Earth. The planet they're on now is 5.8 far away from Earth. She starts to feel weak and asks what planet they're on. This planet has many names depending on the language. Your species has not discovered this solar system yet. Our current location is the second planet in this binary sun system. This particular world completes an orbit around the suns every 372.5 days and rotates on its axis every 27.2 hours. The current temperature is... None of that answers the question. She said, what is this place? But sure. Anyway, the ship was originally a pleasure cruiser for Vectel's people. It landed here due to technical difficulties during a solar storm. The pilot died, and there was no secondary pilot to transfer the ownership of the ship over to. When did this happen? Great question. 287 years ago. Ugh. Vectel is curious as he waits as she's talking to this computer. He waits while she asks more questions. She asks how many people crashed on the craft, and the computer is just spilling. 62 passengers and 1 pilot, most of which who perished before accepting the symbiote. Ah, the khui, the symbiont, the symbiont. Is that a word? An organism living in symbiosis with another. Okay, great. So, yeah. This planet has an element in its atmosphere that is toxic to humankind and also to Sock. It is a gas element similar to nitrogen that has not yet been discovered by humans, as it does not exist in any form on Earth. Your body is not equipped to filter it out of the air. Once you reach toxic levels of the element, your body will slowly shut down. The Sock at your side exists in a mutualistic symbiosis with a creature they refer to as a khui. At the word, Vectel repeats it, and he starts talking to the computer too, and she's reeling. She apparently has about 8 days before she just dies, unless she accepts a parasite into her body. Cool, casual, no big deal. So now she has a choice to make. If she chooses to stay here with the parasite and the Vectel, she can never leave again because the khui can't, they can't detach from each other, and if one of them dies, they both die, something like that. But if she doesn't get the parasite, she has less than a week before she kicks the bucket. Not great. So she needs to talk to Vectel, but then remembers that they can't understand each other. But thankfully, coincidentally, and thankfully, the ship is programmed to be able to upload his language just straight into her noodle. Isn't that something? So she steps into place as directed by the computer. A laser scans her retinas in preparation to upload the new language. How fun. Okay, switch back over to Vectel's POV for this. The scan that Georgie's doing with the computer is complete, and she kind of collapses into his arms, and he's like freaking worried, as anyone would be. Don't laser my eyeballs, please. He is mad at the shapeless voice as he cradles her. Thankfully, she still shows signs of life, so he doesn't have to be too fired up just yet. She wakes up and he asks if she's okay, and she understands. Oh my God, the thing worked. Thank goodness. What if it didn't? He's like, how? She's like, computer. He's like, computer. And she's like, oh yeah, you don't have that. The voice helped me. I learned with the voice. My head hurts. Will you hold me? He's full of questions, as we all are probably, but they can wait. He needs to hold his Georgie. Time passes and he tries to get her to eat that spicy trail mix again, which she refuses. She's like, nah. And he's like, humans have weak tongues. And she's like, as if, I'm paraphrasing, weak tongues, weak eyes, weak bodies, I murmur, enjoying the look of irritation on Georgie's face. It's such a pleasure to be able to speak to her, really speak to her, and to tease her. Weak in many, many places, but a delicious cunt. Okay, maybe they are more alike than I originally thought. She's like, are you always horny like this? And he's like, it's difficult not to be when my mate is so soft and beautiful. To this, she's like, I'm not your mate. And goes on to explain that humans actually mutually decide to be in relationships with one another. So she doesn't have the khui. I just can't help it. But it has to be a mutual decision. And he's not too happy about this. Because no, the khui chooses. And as soon as you get yours, you will see. She's like, I don't even know if I want a khui. Back off. I'm sorry. I'll stop. And he's gagged at this because no khui means death. But she's like, I don't know if I'm staying. And he is shattered. He's coming apart at the seams. She is his mate because of the khui. Yes. But he wants no other being ever. Plus, where is home if not with me? If you hear who is phone, I don't know. Sweet words though, buddy. She starts to explain that her home is in the sky, far, far away, and the ship might, this cave ship, elder, whatever, might be able to take her home. But he's like, nah, a flying cave through space? Ludicrous. He does have a point. She tells him too that even if she did decide to stay, she can't very well make that decision for all the other women that she's with, and he thinks that she's really noble for this. Even if he does want to hold her hostage in this cave and never let her go. They decide right now that they're actually short on time now that they know everything, and so they're going to travel to the tribe tonight. He's happy to help, but he's also really conflicted because after all of this, he might not be able to keep her. I'm just happy that they can now talk without baby talk word pudding. He asks her again to pick me, choose me, love me. And she's like, I need to make this choice on my own. So he agrees to give her time to do that. Georgie POV. As they make their way towards his village or cave or caverns or whatever it's called, she starts rolling through the options in her head just one more time. So we have staying here and accepting the khui. We have taking your chance and squaring up with the aliens if they show back up to collect their cargo. Or trying to get the ship that his ancestors got stranded in to work and get her home. But it might not even be functional anymore. She's just, rolling it all around. She thinks that she's like, if it was just me here, I'm Team Vectel all the way. But she's already really fond of him. And she doesn't have much on Earth that she would miss. And you know what? Honestly, with the way things are going right now, I would also probably stay. But again, she can't make that choice for everybody. They don't have strong blue male aliens that are just being so nice to them and making it seem like a great idea to stay here. And that's not fair. Whatever they decide, they will decide together. I hear ya, girly pop. And I know that you're like the unofficial official leader of this whole crew here, but you barely know these people and you like the alien. Y'all can cosplay as lifelong best friends if you want to, but the air is gonna kill you in 8 days, and you have less than a week to decide to do so. That means like what? It's been maybe 2 days, 3 at most, and then also whatever the 2 weeks that everybody started trickling onto the craft. So like a span of less than a month, you've known these people. They could go home and you could stay here independently of them, or 2 or 3 of them could go home and the rest of them stay, or vice versa. I don't understand why it has to be a group thing. It's possible to care about these people and also make your own decision. I'm not trying to sway you either way, but They approach home and it's shrouded and safe behind this like collection of pink trees. Pink trees! I'm staying. That's it. I'm staying. Another being of Vectel's kind shows up. His name is Rahash. And he's like, oh my god, you mated? With that? What even is that? He's not being that rude about it, but it's funny either way. And Vectel is like protective overload. So he's like, she is Georgie, a human, and my mate. And Rahash almost seems sad at this. And we know now that it's because there are so few females to go around in this tribe. And men dream of finding their mate to resonate with. And yeah, it's very sad. Don't worry though, there is a gaggle of other frail small pails back at the ship. But first things first, Georgie needs to see the healer, and she needs to get some food in her belly. Before they head into the caverns or whatever, Vectel does let it slip that there are 5 other females back at the ship waiting, and that they don't have a khui, but they might mate with someone here. And Georgie is like, hold on there, buddy. We're not on the dating game, okay? Like, no one is being mated without their agreement, I say, crossing my arms. Then I wince because I keep forgetting my wrist is total shit. It is agreed, my Georgie, Vectel says. He caresses my cheek again. I am the chief. They will listen to me. Any male who wishes to mate a human woman must have her agreement. Rahash seems a little upset about this. And for a while, he's giving me like red flag vibes, but spoiler alert, it ends up being nothing. He's fine. He's just a little weird, which who isn't? They enter the cave and it goes on for like ever. And then it finally opens up into like this donut-shaped room with a warm pool at the center, which sounds nice. Now I want a donut. And there are aliens everywhere and they stop and stare because Vectel's back. And what's that? Vectel claims that she is his mate. And a small child asks, why is it so ugly? Which, LOL. Vectel steps in. This is my mate. I resonate for her. As if on cue, his chest starts to vibrate, the thick, steady purr jiggling my cheek. She is beautiful to me. Different, but beautiful nevertheless. He brushes his fingers through my hair. I have seen her bravery, her spirit, and her will. She has trusted me when she has no reason to. She has given me her body when she has no khui to compel her. And it does not matter what any eyes think of her but mine. And to me, she is the most wonderful, most attractive, most compelling of creatures. She is very gorgeous to me. And to this beautiful declaration of mutual respect, companionship, and love, our heroine then says, my eyes prick with emotion question. Okay, for a barbarian, he's pretty good at making a romantic speech. I'm totally giving him a handy for real when we get alone again. I think I kind of hate Georgie. I do. Whatever, they have a lot to do and they need to see the healer. She steps up with a baby on a boob and a baby in the belly. She is just carrying everybody. Vectel leads her to his cave. She notices Rahash off in the shadows, kind of, which is, again, it leads nowhere because he ends up being just completely, he's fine. But it makes me think for a minute that maybe he was supposed to be like a bad guy, and he might still be. There are 21 more books after all, but I digress. She goes into his house and there's like this whole pile of these really soft, lush furs, and she just wants to curl up in it for a bit. But then the healer, Maylock, shows up with her healing basket of goodies, and Vectel dips to give them some alone time and to go rally his hunters to go back for the other humans. Maylock sits with her and cradles her arm, but since she has no khui, she can't heal her really, because it's what the way she does it is that her khui will call to her khui in theory and urge it to heal her faster, which seems fine but useless at this point. So what she does is just rewrap her wrist, and they sit and they discuss the whole khui thing and how does it hurt, and she's like, no, we give khui to all of our newborns around 4 days just so they have time to adjust and so they can also build up their strength a little bit to receive the khui. Otherwise they'll both die, the khui and the kid, like, because they can't exist one without the other after the implantation or whatever. Maylock also explains like the purring and what it is and how it's less of a want and more of a knowing. Like, you just know that that's your mate and you have possessiveness over them and you desire them, which is weird to me because what if, I don't know if this happens, but what if Georgie gets a khui and then he like resonates with Rahash? Is that like thruple territory, or are they always like linked up perfectly in sync with one another? They're like, I don't want to have a whole like Leah Clearwater situation going on here. You know, I'm just trying to think ahead. Then Georgie asks if she's happy who her khui resonated with. And she's like, hell no, girl. Our khui, she doesn't say that, but she's like, our khui doesn't always choose who we would have preferred to have in her furs, or the people that are already in our furs. And Georgie's like, she just asked the worst question. Who did you originally share your furs with? And Maylock is like, Vectel, of course. Shh. No more questions. We're done for the day. Georgie starts to feel a little jealous, but then she just feels sad for him to think that, like, he didn't have a mate and he thought he'd found some sort of a connection with Maylock and then she resonated with somebody else. It's just very sad, you know? That must be why he's so happy to have her quote, I feel a surge of affection for the big guy. I really do hate Georgie, I think. I think that she's just annoying. She's not like other girls, very much so in the way she speaks and thinks, and it's just very exhausting. She goes on to say that Vectel's totally getting a handy tonight, straight up. Gotcha. Vectel POV switch. So he's with the guys, and they are asking all the questions, and he's answering them to the best of his ability. They have no tails, and their mouths are small, and they do not have fangs. They cannot eat meat fresh. They must cook it until it has no flavor. They must not have, bam, emerald in this galaxy. It's an emerald joke. Yeah, she is so cool. No wonder all the kids love me. They all gag at this, but Rahash is annoying too. Like, jealousy isn't cute, Rah, okay? Stop. Despite all of their questions and clamoring, he does manage to get a good party together and tells them to rest up, that they will leave at dawn of the second sun. He goes back to his cave and finds Georgie sleeping in his furs, and she wakes up and totally gives him a handy and a mouthy. No cap. Well, actually cap, because he has a dick lid. Remember? They bang, bang, bangity bang, and then she's like, ha 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 ha, again. So he spins her around and enters her from the back, and she feels his spur pressing on her back door, and I'm sick that it's called a spur. I thought dick lid was bad, but I really just don't like spur. Like, what are we spurring? His khui stopped purring, and she's like, what happened? Like, and he's like, don't worry, it'll be back. It never goes far. Even when a kid comes along, and she's like, whoa, what the fuck? And he's like, yeah, did we not discuss this? Like, the khui is for mating and determining, like, offspring. And so she climbs off his literally, she just climbs right off and out of the bed, and she's like, wait, Vectel, be straight with me. And I giggled at this too, because to that he says, straight? You wish me to form a line? And I am not too proud to admit that I giggled at that. Anyway, she's like, no, tell me the truth. Your khui resonated because it knew you could get me pregnant? No way. I'm not late. Holy dolls. I am late. Oh, God. So part 6. Georgie. She's mad, but it's hard to stay mad when Vectel's so oblivious as to why she's mad, and he's hot, and he's so nice to her. Anyway, it's tomorrow. It's the next day. She's back on his back, and they're headed back up to the crash site. I feel the urge to touch my stomach, even though I'm currently piggyback on Vectel through the snow, heading over the icy mountain to where I left the others. I might not have a choice about the baby thing, but I'm not upset. Repeat? Which is weird to me. It's hard to be angry when you see so much joy on another person's face. False. And bringing Vectel that joy gives me a sweet sort of satisfaction too. Maybe I'm more crazy about the guy than I'd like to admit. Maybe you're just crazy. Have we considered? I don't love any of this. I hate surprise pregnancy. It's one of my least favorite tropes. It's even worse for me that their lack of ability to communicate led to this whole nonsense. Like, he knew, but she didn't. And she seemed down to clown, but he couldn't explain. And he didn't try either. That's the thing. Like, even in his garbledy-gook language, alien language, he didn't try to explain that he knows that she's his mate and he can get her pregnant. He didn't explain any of that. This is the first we're hearing of it. All of us together. And I don't like it. I don't find it sweet. I'm not kind of excited because look how excited he is. I'm not. You withheld information from me against your will or not, like knowingly or not. You did not tell me this. You knew I was different from you, so I may not share your customs. You might have to explain some things. And you never explained that the purring dog shit thing that's going on in your chest means must breed you now. This is a lie by omission by way of failure to communicate. And I just don't love it. And I don't love how eager she is to just carry this guy's seed. She's not upset? Great, that's you. Oh, your blue alien is excited at the prospect of procreation with you? Cool, what the do I give a shit? They made an overnight pit stop back at the Elder's Cave / spaceship with the AI guy in it so that the alien hunter people can have English scanned into their brains, which is great because now they'll get to talk to their women before they breed them, which is great. We might avoid all this bullshit in the future. Rahash was first in line. What's the Rahash? It gives Georgie a bad vibe, how eager he is, but she also communicates this to Vectel, and Vectel keeps an eye on him for the rest of the trip, which I thought was kind of nice, because usually, you know, men and the boys club and everything, and this strange woman is like, I don't really trust him, and they'll be like, I've known him for years. None of that going on here. And so another green flag in the field that is Vectel. They arrive at the shipwreck, and Georgie's like, I need to go in first. But Vectel puts his hand on her stomach, and she says, oh shit, a baby on board totally changes the game, doesn't it? Only if you're a wuss. Did you see Rihanna perform at the Super Bowl? I mean, I jest. When I was pregnant the first time, I barely left the bed, and the second time I was ordered by my doctor not to leave the bed, so I have literally no room to talk. He goes in, finds nothing dangerous, and helps Georgie come in and find the girls, sallow and much weaker than they left them. Rahash is in, and gently lifts Liz off of the ground and brings water to her lips. And Georgie hears a purring sensation. Someone resonated, but nobody will come forward and say who it was. Love that. She hears more and more purring sounds coming, and it's just really freaking worrying her. She's like, did I just save these women or sign them up for a whole new set of problems? Both a little, I think. I think the answer is both. Porque no nos dos, you know? And she tells the girls, we need to talk. 2 hours go by. The girls have had water and food. They are feeling a little bit better. Georgie asks for Vectel to clear everyone out so she can talk to the girls. And once everybody's cleared out, she does explain. She spills. She's like, khui, mating, nitrogen poison air, 8 days, parasite, like just everything. They're all a little skeeved about this whole parasite thing, which is understandable. But they want to hear what Georgie is thinking. And she spills that she's pregnant, so she's not the one to ask. And they're like, God damn, she's pregnant and she wants to stay. And Liz, again, is overly familiar and gives us the same hilarious joke about leaving her alone for 2 seconds, lol. And Georgie's like, I didn't think that he could knock me up since we're different species. And Liz says, a Great Dane can still make a Chihuahua pregnant, Liz points out. Guess which one you are? That Liz, I'll tell you, what if I just beat your ass? Anyway, they all agree to stay. They all agree to stay, and they're like, I guess we should wake up the test tube girlies. They're gonna be really confused and mad at us. But if the guys are as nice to us as Vectel is to you, then maybe it won't be so bad. I can't wait to see the look on the guys' face when they find out that there are more of us or whatever. Bitch, y'all are way too casual about all this. Maybe it's the infirm, maybe it's the delusion, but none of y'all, not one of you, has something back on Earth that you want to get back to. Friends, companionship, hobbies, family. Like, you're telling me not one of these women have anything to worry about or care about that they might want to go home and see again? A pet? Are you telling me that they didn't have pets? None of them? And, going back to that first little cluster when they were like, oh, well, we're all living alone, 22, no health problems, nobody's pregnant. One of them was pregnant. So she clearly had some sort of entanglement, but sure, fine. All of them choose to stay. Brava. POV switched back to Vectel. Georgie takes him to the side and tells him not only are they staying, but there are even more girls in the tubes. And it's weird how she presents this. She's like, I have good news and bad news. I don't know what the bad news would be, but whatever. He's thrilled at the extra ladies, even though that was touted as bad news, but all of our jaws stayed in place to learn that he was thrilled about this. Of course he would be. Why would you think it was bad news? She goes to the others so that they can wake up the pod people, for lack of a better term for them, and he watches as the women are freed, woken up. Some are angry, others are crying, and he's worried that they're running out of time, but he trusts his Shorshi to handle them as needed. So he goes out to get the guys together again, who are all out there like nervous and anxious and excited, feeling just all the things. He's like, we'll see them soon. And there's more women than we thought. And they are just really scared right now, and they need a second. And while they're out there, chattering about all that, they see something called a Sakotsk in the distance. And this is the beast where they will get the khui for all of the women. He goes inside to tell Georgie, and Liz is less than enthusiastic about it, saying, not everyone is sold on the idea yet, buddy. And I thought you were. I thought you were staying. And part of staying is accepting the khui. But whatever. Just then, though, a loud sound, and Kira holds her ear and screams, the aliens are coming back. We have to go now. POV Georgie. They make their way back down the mountain with a little bit more pep in their step this time. The newly awoken girls are still in tears, and their requests for better shoes and more furs, and they don't have it, but they're doing their best. And Georgie's a little annoyed with them because I'm doing my best. Can they just freak out later? Can they just get with the program? I'm gonna need you to calm down, ma'am. Okay? That's completely stupid. I understand that we have things to do and we need to get moving, but these women were just woken from 2 weeks of slumbering in some sort of suspension pod on an alien spacecraft. So yeah, they're probably gonna need a little bit of time, but I know we don't have time, so let's go. The loud noises were from their trackers because apparently the aliens had activated them so that they could find their cargo. They take turns like carving the trackers out of them, and then they throw it down into the cave of the mean Wookiees. And then onward to find the Sakotsk. I guess that's how you say it. I don't know. The ground shakes and they know that the Sakotsk is near. Apparently they are really fierce to hunt unless a khui is needed. So they haven't hunted a lot of these, which makes Georgie very nervous. Vectel directs all the women into the tree line to hide because the Sakotsk can't climb, and the men descend on the Sakotsk. I am having a hard time. As they wait in the trees, Georgie's just overcome with nerves. She is so nervous for Vectel and his safety, and it probably has something to do with being ripe with child. I don't know. The fight ensues. It's nerve-wracking for them and only okay for me. Vectel slays the thing, and upon seeing this, she has to get to him, so they embrace, and he's like, go get the other women. It's khui o'clock. That wasn't funny. I'm sorry. They all reconvene at the side of this now slain beast or whatever to get the khui, which are inside of the critter. So they have to slaughter him. This should be fun. And extract some sort of glowing sac. And then they cut that open and reveal glowing, squirmy, wormy worms. I would need a second to reconsider. So the way that this works is they have to make an incision in the girl's neck, sure, and let the worm crawl inside. And I'd nope the hell right out of this plan. Absolutely not. And it goes to live in their heart. I'm so sorry. I'm leaving, never to come back again. And I'm taking your alien baby with me. But hey, she's not me. And she made her choice. She chose Vectel and this bebe that she just found out about 12 hours ago. So get to slicing. She steps right up and he makes the incision and the girls gather around to watch. He kisses her forehead. She says, I love you. He says, you are my heart. As he raises the worm to her incision, she thinks to herself, no, wait, I changed my mind, but it's too late. The khui touches her skin and immediately burrows inside. Ugh. She can feel it crawling towards her heart, which honestly would give me a cardiac episode. I would pass out, which she does. Everything starts to get really warm, and then all of a sudden, boom, darkness. She wakes up a little bit later and she is very warm and thunder rumbles somewhere in the night sky, but everything else is otherwise unchanged. She asks if the others took the khui too, and he's like, yep, everybody, because you were brave and led the way. And like, hi, y'all didn't want to wait to see if she woke up first? You didn't want to do that. Right. I understand that once the khui is extracted from the glow sac, that they have a limited shelf life. Like they'll die quickly if they don't implant into someone. Right. I get that. But we couldn't have given it like 2 minutes just to see if she wakes up. But she is alive and she's ready to mount him right then and there. And as it turns out, the sound of the thunder that I just spoke of, no, it's not thunder. That was her. It's coming from her. She is khui'd up and ready. Ha, that's funny. It's not. He can smell that she's ready, wink, but he urges her instead to just take a look around at her people being helped by his people. Delicately, carefully, kindly. Most of them have resonated and they will take things slow, but Rahash is Rahashin again, and he has slunk off with Liz, not to be found unless he wants to be. He's a great hunter. Vectel knows that he won't be found unless he wants to be found, so they must wait for him to return. They, Georgie and Vectel, slink off for some privacy and will return in the morning. She's absolutely feral to get at him. Let me at him. And just as he is railing her from behind, there's this giant flash of light in the sky. Awkward. Hello. The ship that originally abducted her has returned and hovered over the spot where all those little mean Wookiees were. They don't want the Wookiees. I can't imagine why. The ship leaves, and that means she's safe here and will be Vectel's forevermore. After all, when the khui mate, they mate for life. All right, the end of book 1 of Ice Planet Barbarians series.
Hi. So I'm wearing the same shirt, yes, but it's a different day. I'm popping in with a couple of things. I didn't originally film a final thoughts segment to this video because honestly, I didn't write one in the script. And once I finished the script, I had something horrible happen. So I'm going to do my best to kind of wrap it up. I gave myself a little bit of time to sit with the book and kind of go over all my thoughts on it so I can kind of tell you what I think. And then I'm going to have to share some pretty bad news with you. If you're on my bindery page, you probably already know. So let's start with my final thoughts. As I said earlier, I've read this book before and it's fine. It's not for me. I didn't really love it. I doubt that I will finish the series. There are freaking 20 more books. No, that sounds like a lot of time that I could be reading other things. And, you know, those are choices that we have to make as readers. It's a tough life, but somebody's got to do it. When I originally read this the first time, I read it in 2022, I think, and it was at the beginning of me making bookish content and learning how to review and read critically. So I was reading with a little less discretion. I was just out here, you know, doing my best. And back then when I reviewed it, I think I wrote a blog. Okay, so according to my original review that I posted on my blog in April 2022, I said, overall, I had a really fun time reading this book. I recommend it to anyone who likes funny writing, sci-fi, alien romances, easily understood fantasy, or dirty, dirty smut. It was probably more of a 3.5, maybe even a 4. I reserve the right to change my mind at any time. It was a great read to break up some of my more heavy reads of the month. I'm going to amend that now. Okay, so I very much meant it when I wrote it then, but I'm a different person now. So this reading, I wasn't a fan of any of this. The humorous writing read more try-hardy and annoying to me this time around. The characters were very annoying to me. Like, Vectel was fine, and he definitely compares well to all the other boyfriends that we see, especially when we're venturing into like darker or monster romance stories. I feel like the world building was kind of shaky, and that's fine. It's book one, so I feel like 20 more books, there's going to be some solidifying of things. There were a couple things I didn't understand. The way that they wrote them talking to each other before the translator laser beam thing was grating to read, and then way worse to read out loud to you. And it went on for far too long. Like, do it and let me know that this is what they're hearing from each other, and then leave it alone, because otherwise it's just really jarring to read and it takes you out of the story. Aside from that stupidity, there was also other like really overly familiar childish language used between all of the victims of the abduction. There was that whole series cap moment about just casually tossing in that, oh, well, she had something horrible happen to her, so of course she didn't want to live. I can't even be sad about it. Yikes. I just didn't like it. It wasn't good. I think originally I said 3.5, maybe closer to a 4. I'm thinking 2.5, maybe a 3 if I'm feeling super generous. But I'm not feeling super generous. I feel like shit. So I'm going to give you a little warning that we're about to go into a pretty drastic tone shift, and I'm going to discuss some really sad news. Some of the worst news that I've ever had to tell 20,000 people at once. So this is your warning if you don't want to hear that. On Friday, March 14th, we have to say goodbye to Beans. I am going to do this. I'm going to be all right. As many of you may have known already, some of you may not, Beans came to us with a lot of health problems. My son found him outside and brought him home. And on the first visit to the vet, we found out that he's just full of problems. Bless his little heart. He had a hernia, and I went in with like nothing but optimism. I was like, well, we can talk about the hernia and see what they can do for him and schedule his like getting neutered or spayed. I don't know which one is which. And just kind of go over everything that he needs so that we can make him feel better. And then they told me that he had a bad heart. One of the most severe murmurs they've ever heard. Fluid on his lungs. His heart isn't developing correctly. And that as he grew, he was going to just get worse. So we kind of knew our time with old Beansy Boy was limited, but that doesn't make it any better that it's finally come to an end. I'm doing my best. Hold on. At the beginning of the week, Hannah was watching him for us because we were out of town and it was the boys' spring break. And so we got back and we noticed that he seemed to be breathing a little heavier than usual. And she said that he was eating, but not very much. So I got him an appointment, and me and my youngest took him. And then they delivered the horrible news that he was actually in a lot of pain. His hernia has gotten to the point where it would require emergency surgery. But since he still has so much issues with the heart and lungs, he cannot do a surgery. He wouldn't have survived it. And the minute that she said that he was in a lot of pain, I knew what we had to do. I called my husband. He went and got our other child, and we were all together with him for his last moments. I've never had to put a pet to sleep before. I grew up in the country, and we had a lot of outdoor animals that would just wander up and hang out for a bit, and then we would never see them again. And that level of detachment is what I'm used to. So this has been really overwhelming for me. And thankfully, the vet was really gentle with us and everything. And it was the best of a horrible experience, I guess. I don't know. And I tallied up the time we had with him, and we only had him for 245 days. He was almost 11 months old. He came to us on a Friday in July, and he left us on a Friday in March. And it would have never been enough time with that little idiot. You can always tell when I had to take a cry break because my nose is like 3 shades redder when I come back. Anyway, I wanted to share this news with you, not just because I needed to kind of explain why I may be kind of MIA over the next week or so, but also because you guys loved Beans too, and it wouldn't feel right not to tell you and share it with you. I also want to say thank you to you also just for being here in general and for letting this be my job, because over the last 72 hours, I have really leaned into doing work for you. And it has been really helpful. And it might seem strange because, working at a time like this, whatever, but like everybody grieves differently. And part of my whole process is having something fun and silly goofy to focus my energy on that I can like hyper fixate on. Editing has been really good for that, where I'm just really lasered in on making fun things that make me laugh and break up a little bit of the heaviness that I'm carrying around these days. So I really do appreciate
appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being here before this. I will appreciate you being here after this. And I appreciate you being here during all of this. I really miss him. This has been really hard. And having something to do to keep my mind preoccupied so I don't just sit and stare at all of his stuff that's laying around the house has been really great. And thank you for that. And thank you for loving Beans with me. It was really fun to get to share him with you and to have our beautiful Beans footage at the end of all of our videos. And so I will give you this last little bit of beautiful Beans footage to honor him, spend some time with him, and get to say somewhat of a goodbye. So thank you for listening to me cry on the internet. This isn't the first time I've done that. Probably won't be the last. I love you. You don't have to say it back. And I will see you in the next one.
This is City Boy.